Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Industry Insiders. We are excited to have Mr. Adam Olsen with us today. Adam is deeply active in the commercial real estate space and is also leaning into media, visibility, and AI in a really practical way. Adam, great to have you on.
It's great to be here with you, Rick. Really excited to share with your listeners and followers and hopefully give some insight on how we use AI, but more importantly, how we've scaled our company over the last 12 years.
Perfect. Sounds good. Give us give us a quick rundown on your history. What path brought you here today?
Yeah, so I've been in the real estate space for roughly 12 years. Before that, was in the show cattle industry, showed cattle all over the country, multiple different breeds. But as far as the real estate industry goes, we started obviously at ground zero, like everyone. Quickly grew a large team, currently do anywhere from 500 to just shy of about 900 transactions a year, depends on the year. Believe our highest year was about 872, and one of our lowest years here in the last 5 years was like 460 or 450 in that range. So we do a lot of transactions, a lot of volume, both in the residential space and then obviously the commercial space with the commercial professionals. Also CCIM, we do a lot of different developments where it goes from retail to industrial to large Fortune 500 companies, all the way to your what I call chuck in the truck. Small businesses just like ourselves that are here in our local area, just outside of Houston. So that's a little bit of background on myself and the growth over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Quite a path that led you here. Show cattle. That I grew up on a farm, so our cattle weren't worth showing, but we worked at it anyway.
Oh yeah, it's a chore. I always tell everyone it's an expensive hobby. So
Yeah, there you go. All right, so Adam, you mentioned you're actively increasing your exposure through podcasts and press. What triggered that shift, and what are you hoping that visibility unlocks for you guys?
We run a lot of social media ads and we reach a ton of people when it comes to Facebook, Instagram, and your third party social media websites. But really trying to focus there forward on, press and podcasts, just getting out in front of people, sharing a little bit about our business, who we are, and how we've been able to achieve, right, the mild success that we have. More importantly, because I listen to multiple different podcasts, read different press articles, and there are different nuggets and good information and takeaways that we utilize in our own business. So, my thought is if we can give a little bit back of what we've been able to do and how we've been able to move up in the ranks or in our business, maybe it'll help, another individual do the same. And so that's the reason why we're starting to get more involved in the podcast and press releases,
Mhm.
just to try and get back to the entrepreneurial community.
Sure, absolutely. Not to your competitors, of course, but
Yeah.
anybody else.
Well, them too. We're happy to help. A matter of fact, I've got multiple agents and other teams, brokers that reach out, for assistance. We're always willing to help. I always say there's enough to go around to feed everybody's family, and
Sure.
not everyone's going to like Adam. So I wish they did, but they're not.
Yeah, right. Yep. So when you think about growth right now, where are your best deals or opportunities coming from, and how consistent is that pipeline these days?
So the pipeline is pretty consistent. We get or we receive anywhere from about 700 to 900 leads a month. Part of that is our social media following online, and then paid ads through Zillow, Google, and other platforms. So it's fairly consistent. It's all over the board. As far as our best deals, in my opinion, in real estate, yes, you can find them on market. There are certainly opportunities out there on market. They do come up, but here lately, a lot of our best transactions that allow the most profit to an investor or someone that's looking to develop have been off-market sites. So that involves us, calling different properties around the area that are off market. Maybe they adjoin, another large development or in close proximity. But off market is definitely the way to go. They're harder to get, and then of course you do find opportunities on market as well. So it's just consistently being in that grind mode to an extent, looking every day on MLS, LoopNet, Comgate, Crexy to see what new listings may have come up so that you're not missing anything, and getting those out to our investors, clients, or people that are looking right in that space. But off market is always key. So
yeah. So you mentioned you're using AI tools daily, some Chat
yes.
GPT, Grok, email support. What's been the biggest practical win so far in your day-to-day workflow?
I think number one is just using it, right? There are those individuals out there that are scared to use it, or they think it's going to take over their job, but in reality
Hmm.
it's helping you move forward. And so
Hmm.
I think the first step is obviously to utilize it. There are so many different angles to use it. In the real estate business, I use ChatGPT to look over financials. Maybe there's an 80-page HOA document. We're looking for a specific rule or regulation. So rather than
Hmm.
it taking me 2 hours to go through 80 pages, I can upload that into ChatGPT or Claude or the various AI sources out there to analyze the documents, to pull out the information that we need, or to break it down in a short email to our clients to explain it. I always say to double check it. Sometimes it's not always 100% accurate. So you definitely want to
Hmm.
double check,
Yeah.
right? Whatever it's providing you before you send that on or put it in a presentation. But it can do almost anything that you ask, whether it's creating graphics, creating bar charts, helping creating financials, reviewing attorney type contracts. I've even had it type letters to the attorney general or to review,
Hmm.
suit paperwork of attorneys that have sent over to me on my behalf. So it
Hmm.
is an incredible tool to utilize in your business, no matter what you do, to help move the needle forward. But more importantly, buy back some of your time. Some of these tasks, used to take us 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 hours, whatever the case is, whether it's typing an email, reviewing the documents, typing the documents. And
Hmm.
now that has been suppressed, right? If we're utilizing the tools that are readily available in front of us on an everyday basis. I also recently connected an AI platform with my email. It doesn't send them, but it'll type out drafts. So I
Hmm.
get so many emails a day between both emails, Adam Olsen team, which is our residential and land side of the company, and then the commercial professionals, which handles our commercial listings and commercial properties, developments, etc., that we sell. And, roughly get several hundred emails a day between both emails, believe it or not. And it'll type out draft responses. It'll analyze the information that you sent to an individual, 3, 4 days prior, and remind you to follow up. And sometimes the draft is not 100% where it needs to be, so I have to go in and edit. But it just saves me so much time from having to go back, think, and remember from those emails 2, 3, 4, 5 days ago that maybe the individual hasn't responded to. So it's a really cool system. It saves a lot of time on my side and also brings things back up to the top, right, of the thought process. Things that, like I said, you might have sent an email on 2, 3, 4, 5 days ago. The individual hasn't responded. And so it's typing out a draft email with a follow up. Basically, hey, want to make sure you got my email. Can you answer these 2 or 3 questions? And all I've got to do is go in and edit it or hit send. So really, really saves quite a bit of time, just in that sense. But there are so many different automations that you can set up aside from email in various different industries. And it's just really getting in there and learning it all. More importantly, staying ahead of the curve, right? If you're not doing it, your competitors are. They're learning how to use these systems and scale at a much faster pace than you will ever be able to do without using, right, AI.
Yes, it is a fantastic augmentation to the skills that you already have and just allows you to almost clone yourself when it comes to some of the work that you don't necessarily want to spend time doing, but
Oh,
needs to be
yeah.
done.
I mean, it is incredible what it can do. I mean, literally
Yeah.
anything that you ask it, it can analyze, create, or do for you. My business partner, Gabe, uploaded some financials and it put it in this beautiful bar chart, right, to present to the client. So literally anything that you would like to utilize it for, in a sense, it can do, and then some. And there are so many different platforms out there and AI systems that you can look into. And I think it's very important that regardless of your industry or background or what business you have, that you start utilizing it and seeing how you can your staff and your employees can use it on a daily basis to increase their workflow,
Hmm.
and um, do more business.
Right, right. Uh, so along that same line, as much as you're utilizing AI, where in your space do you think it could be more helpful, but just isn't quite there yet?
Um, I think AI, like we've talked, is a great tool, but it's not always correct. And so,
Hmm.
I've noticed whether I'm running spreadsheets, having it check financials, or anything along those lines, that I always have to double check its work, because in
Right.
some cases it reads the documents incorrectly, it provides the wrong information, or maybe it's not directed right in the way that you're asking the question.
Hmm.
I've asked for various different responses, whether it comes to email or, like I said, reviewing documents, and sometimes it's just not correct. And so you have to reprompt it, or maybe just take what it gave you and edit it, to make it correct based on those documents.
Yeah, sometimes you have to kind of you have to get it to focus because it'll have scope creep on, if you're following through on a project and you're running it along a long line of responses, you'll have some scope creep in there, and you have to kind of bring it back in and get it back on task because it'll head in different directions.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great tool, but
Hmm.
it's not always 100% correct. So I
Yeah.
can't stress enough, double checking the work, even the drafts, right, on that email system that I was talking about earlier. In some cases, it's not correct versus it typed out a response. One thing that comes to mind, it typed out a response to a client the other day, and you read the response, and it's basically suggesting that we're not doing our job. So
Yeah, that's not
not good. We
helpful, is
definitely
it?
don't want to send that.
Yeah. Okay. So in your current deal flow from initial lead to close transactions, where do things tend to slow down or get stuck?
On the AI, you know, I, I guess where we slow down and get stuck is not utilizing it right on an everyday
Hmm.
basis, because it's extremely
Hmm.
quick. And so there are those instances where I'm in the middle of doing something and I'm like, dang, why didn't I just use, ChatGPT or Claude or one of the, 3 million systems out there, right? That analyze information, help you type emails, create graphics, um, to speed up your time process. And so I, aside from checking it, I think what slows us down is not utilizing it, believe it or not.
Hmm. So, in a competitive commercial real estate market, what do you feel truly differentiates you and your firm from your competitors, and how intentional is that positioning?
So I think what differentiates ourselves is, one, the knowledge, two, the responses. Anyone that works in the commercial real estate world knows how hard it is to get responses from other brokers or agents in the business.
Hmm.
Furthermore, even clients will express to me, Adam, you always call back, you always email, return the call by the end of the day. And there are so many times that we reach out to other brokers or inquire on properties, and it's 3, 4, 5, days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before we hear back. And so, I even experienced that on my end with other brokers, agents, attorneys, service providers. I think it's very important that any business responds to those inquiries, to your emails, to your phone calls, to your text messages the same day. We all have the same 12 hours or 15 hours or 8 hours or however long you work, right? Every single day. And it just baffles me at the lack of attention and lack of responsiveness throughout, the entrepreneurial space, not just in the real estate
Hmm.
industry, but in all businesses. And so I think if you're not, you know, uh, at least responding to your inquiries, to your phone calls, to your text messages by the end of the day, you're already in a sense losing.
Hmm.
There's a saying in our industry that speed to lead in any industry matters, right? Being able to effectively communicate, respond, and provide the information in a timely manner, not, a week later, 2 weeks later, is extremely important. And not only that, it's frustrating, right? To the individual requesting, asking for information, and yet we see it time and time again. So, um, if regardless of your business or industry, how do we respond faster? And we do so utilizing AI, speeding up our timelines, and our process of typing out those emails. There's also other platforms out there that can respond in real time, can answer phones and communicate over phone with said potential
Hmm.
clients or inquiries. And I think really utilizing that to the fullest advantage, but more importantly, uh, being quick and responsive is
Hmm.
very important in today's market.
It surely is. So, looking ahead in the next 6 to 12 months, what signals or metrics will tell you that you're on the right track with your current strategy?
I think the metrics comes down to what business you're in and are we obtaining right your goals that you set for this year, or maybe surpassing right the your uh, previous years in sales, right? So for us, it would be growing our listing count, right? And more importantly, growing our closing ratios and closing count year to year. So everyone wants to grow. You don't want to retract. Sometimes, like in our industry, it's hard to gauge because it's very economical driven. So
Hmm.
if the market
Hmm.
is being suppressed or hurting, or maybe there's some turbulence right in the stock market, or the global market, we can see a slower sales cycle and a slower closing ratio on our listings. So there are some outside factors that obviously play a part. especially in multiple other industries as well. Um, but I think, the answer lies there. And then furthermore, not just how many transactions did I close or how many new contracts did I get, or how many sales did I make this month, but are your clients happy, right? If we're providing exceptional service, providing value in the marketplace, then at the end of the day, we are successful, right? People enjoy our services. They like our services. They're writing 5-star reviews. So, success isn't always measured on how much are we doing and how much are we making, but what impact are we making in the marketplace and what value are we providing to consumers, and how are we educating, right, those individuals on our industry. So there are multiple different metrics to look at, but I think those would be the most important, in my opinion.
If you could remove one constraint in your business today, be it time, lead flow, follow-up, data, anything, what would create the biggest immediate impact?
Um, I think, being able to respond to individuals as quick as possible is
Hmm.
would lift a lot of weight off of our shoulders, and being able to provide value in a rapidly moving marketplace. Just like we were talking earlier, I think a lot of individuals in industries really lack in responsiveness and providing information and being able to handle the inbound business as quickly as possible. So any automations that we could set up, an email, phone calls, getting that information out to our agents, that is a huge bottleneck, that may not always be or ever be 100%, but we can work towards that and perfect it as best as possible. So,
Right, right. Uh, where do you feel like like, what are you still doing as a team that you feel would would gain from more automation, from more in-depth AI integration, and maybe not just in your business, but in the industry as a whole? Where do you see that possibility or that opportunity?
one thing that we're working on currently is AI conversational website. And so what that means is
Hmm.
someone is able to ask questions right on your website and get the immediate answers. Um,
Hmm.
and Furthermore, for our agents, right, that's, in my opinion, where the world is moving. It's something that we're recently or have recently started working on, or reached out to our website company um, last week. And it's an area that I think a lot of the large portals like LoopNet, Crexy, Zillow, Realtor.com are moving towards, where you can ask a question, what's the median home price in this area? What's the best place to live in Houston? What are the top 5 zip codes? What areas have the best school ratings? And get immediate answers. Whereas,
Hmm.
before you had to do your own research, right? Go through multiple different websites or reach out to different agents or brokers in the marketplace. And regardless of the industry, I think instant access to data or information is extremely important. um, you know the 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 fastest way to the top of the mountain um, always wins, in a sense. So
Hmm.
can push that out before our competitors, and reach the masses per se. We're just that much further ahead than the competitors in the space, and I think that's why it's important that every industry, regardless of what you sell, regardless of the service that you provide, if you start implementing AI now, utilizing it, training your staff and your agents, you will be that much further ahead as this industry progresses. Um,
Hmm.
it's extremely crucial, and I think there's a lot of cool things that small businesses in particular didn't have access to or couldn't use to compete with your larger companies. And now they've got everything at their fingertips if they actually use it. But
Hmm.
AI conversational websites, I think, will be very large in the next 12 to 24 months. A lot of your large portals are already working on it, um, very secretive. And I think for us smaller companies or people that, don't necessarily compete, right, with these large portals, but we compete
Hmm.
in our regional area. The first ones to utilize it and really implement it and use it at a large scale will ultimately win.
Hmm. Well, thanks, Adam. This was extremely insightful on how you are weaving these new technologies into your business and into the industry. Um, if you would kind of tell everybody where they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so commercial professionals, you can look us up on Facebook, Google, or Instagram, as well as TikTok, and basically all of your social media platforms. So that's at the commercial professionals on social media. You can look us up on our website or email me at adam@thecommercialprofessionals.com. And then for the residential and land side, it would be the adamolsenteam.com or adam@adamolsenteam.com. So we're out of the Houston area. We do cover the state of Texas when it comes to commercial. On the residential side, we cover College Station and then Crockett, Centerville, all the way to Galveston and everything in between. So pretty wide area. Would love to work with you, connect with you, help you in your business, and really appreciate you having me on, Rick, and looking forward to connecting in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, Adam. Have a good week, and thank you everyone for joining us.